Before they boarded their 19-hour flight back to China, the three giant pandas that had been living at the Smithsonian's National Zoo were fed breakfast, placed in special crates, and bid farewell by the zoo's director, Brandy Smith.
So please know that the future is bright for giant pandas. We remain committed to our program, and we look forward to celebrating with all of you when pandas can return to D.C.
Xu Shuiyuan, minister at the Chinese embassy in the United States, also made remarks.
Giant pandas belong to China. Giant pandas also belong to the world. China will continue to work closely with cooperation partners, including the United States, on the conservation and research of endangered species and biodiversity protection.
The giant panda program in the U.S. began in 1972 with the arrival of Xinxin and Linlin. The rare gift from China was a sign of not only goodwill, but also soft power, after then U.S. President Richard Nixon and First Lady Pat Nixon had paid a historic state visit to the East Asian country.
It created very much an impression of China that was different from the harsh impressions of China that people had because of issues like human rights in Tibet or Xinjiang.
In 1984, when the giant panda was declared an endangered species, Beijing began lending bears instead of gifting them. 10-year agreements with a price tag of up to $10 million were put in place.
They decided that in order to help with panda conservation in China, that they would charge for the pandas. Zoos were willing to pay these kinds of prices because, as I again said, they are a major attraction.
Under one of those research and breeding agreements, which would be later extended several times, panda pair Mei Xiang and Tian began living at the Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington in December 2000.
We had a pair at the Atlanta Zoo. The Memphis and San Diego pandas have already gone back to China.
There's been some speculation that economic, political, and security tensions between the U.S. and China might be at play in the non-extension of the agreements.
I do think that American scientists are quite willing to engage with Chinese scientists on many of these issues and want to keep it apolitical. But unfortunately, the Chinese system is one where it's very difficult to keep science apolitical.
Chinese authorities did not reply to VOA's repeated requests for comment. The success of breeding and other conservation efforts in U.S. zoos, however, should not be overlooked, some analysts say. The zoos have helped improve the species' status from endangered to vulnerable. But others say it is time for a new strategy.
I think the public understands more now than it did back then that zoos are not necessarily the way that you preserve animals in the wild, that's a different question, and you have to look at how you're protecting their feeding and breeding grounds and their ability to move and all these kinds of things.
But some fans of the DC pandas say they will miss them.
When I heard that these pandas were leaving, I was really, really upset.
With their departure, Zoo Atlanta now is the only place in the U.S. housing giant pandas. 2 of its 4 pandas will likely return in early 2024, the zoo says, while the loan on the remaining 2 expires late next year. Verónica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.